Yes, thank you.
Okay, could I have a motion to adjourn our private session?
Move.
Second.
Roll call?
Mr. Giordano.
Yes.
Mrs. McAvoy.
Yes.
Mr. Marnak.
Yes.
Mr. Schubager.
Yes.
Mrs. Torello.
Yes.
Mrs. Downing.
Yes, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the March 24th, 2014 board meeting. Adequate notice of this meeting was forwarded to the Asbury Park Press and the Beacon newspapers on March 18th, 2014 by posting the notices in the Forked River and Lenoka Harbor post offices, the Lacey Township Library, and by filing a copy of the notice with the Lacey Township Municipal Clerk as required by the Open Public Meeting Law. Could you please stand and salute the flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Page 18. Can I have a motion that the board approve the minutes and the appropriate attachments of the agenda regular meeting held on February 18th, 2014?
Move.
Second.
Roll call?
Mr. Giordano.
Yes.
Mrs. McAvoy.
Yes.
Mr. Marnak.
I abstain since I wasn't here on that date.
Mr. Schubager.
Yes.
Mrs. Torello.
Yes.
Mrs. Downing.
Yes. Could I have a motion that the board approve the minutes of the private session, number 1, held on February 18th, 2014?
Move.
Second.
Roll call?
Mr. Giordano.
Yes.
Mrs. McAvoy.
Yes.
Mr. Marnak.
Abstain.
Mr. Schubager.
Yes.
Mrs. Torello.
Yes.
Mrs. Downing.
Yes. Second private session, is that
It
when?
was after the,
Yeah.
right,
Could I have a motion that the board approve the minutes of the private
there.
session number 2 held on February 18th, 2014?
Move.
Second.
Roll call. Please.
Mr. Giordano.
Yes.
Mrs. McAvoy.
Yes.
Mr. Marnak.
Abstain.
Mr. Schubager.
Abstain.
Mrs. Torello.
Yes.
Mrs. Downing.
Abstain. And lastly, could I have a motion that the board approve the minutes of the special meeting held on February 24th, 2014?
Move. Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Giordano.
Yes.
Mr. McAvoy. Mrs. McAvoy.
Yes.
Mr. Marnak.
Yes.
Mr. Schubager.
Yes.
Mrs. Torello.
Yes.
Mrs. Downing.
Yes. Thank you. Page 35. Could I have a motion to approve payment of bills totaling $5,789,871.57.
Move it.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Giordano.
Yes.
Mrs. McAvoy.
Yes.
Mr. Marnak.
Yes.
Mr. Schubager.
Yes.
Mrs. Torello.
Yes.
Mrs. Downing.
Yes. Could I have a motion?
Move.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call?
Mr. Giordano.
Yes.
Mrs. McAvoy.
Yes.
Mr. Marnak.
Yes.
Mr. Schubager.
Yes.
Mrs. Torello.
Yes.
Mrs. Downing.
Yes. Okay, Mr. Stein, could we please have a request for private session?
Request the board adopt a motion to hold a second private session to discuss contract matters with the information be made available to the public upon completion of those matters.
Move. Second.
Roll call?
Mr. Giordano.
Yes.
Mrs. McAvoy.
Yes.
Mr. Marnak.
Yes.
Mr. Schubager.
Yes.
Mrs. Torello.
Yes.
Mrs. Downing.
Yes. Okay, student representative comments. Who would like to speak first? Mackenzie?
Good evening. I'm Mackenzie Boudreau, the SGA Vice President. I'm speaking on behalf of Luke, who couldn't make it tonight. He said, "Good evening. I would like to apologize for not being able to attend tonight's meeting, for I am in the final stages of the play. Myself and the rest of SGA and class officers are incredibly enthused to say our first Lacey's Got Talent was a huge success. Thank you to everyone who came out to support. Congratulations to the winners, Haley Morrow, Allison Smith, and Ashley Watros. The freshman class is hosting this year's Spring Fling on Friday, March 28th at 7 o'clock p.m. The Future Teachers of America Club have their yearly scholarship fundraiser, a trip to New York City to see a Broadway show. This year's show was Les Mis. It was truly an incredible sight to see more students be exposed to the arts. Great job, FTA. A huge, well-deserved congratulations to Mr. Grillon, the 2014 Teacher of the Year. Finally, the 2014 Spring Musical, Seussical the Musical, is April 3rd, 4th, and 5th at 7 o'clock p.m. and April 5th at 2 o'clock p.m. Reserved seats are $20, adults are $15, students and seniors at $10, and children 9 and under are free. Tickets can be purchased at the door, or you can order in advance by calling the high school at 609-971-2020. Thank you.
Thank you.
This month in the senior class, there's not much going on. We just finished up the design of the senior shirts. Jenna Soyden drew the front, which is an LT with a line in it, and the back it says "Stay Classy" with the L and the A is 14. And that's pretty much it. So this month's unsung hero, down to earth, charismatic, and comical are some words that come to mind when thinking of March's unsung hero. She's always lending a helping hand, even if her hands are full. And she is someone everyone knows they can rely on if they need that helping hand. This month's unsung hero is a senior who can make you smile even if you are having a bad day with her funny remarks or joking around. She's a member of the National Honor Society and is willing to risk her life to save others and working as a lifeguard at the Lacey Township Lakes. On top of that, she's involved with her church, dedicating her summers to Vacation Bible School. She's a youth group leader, guiding the younger children and mentoring them. She was a major factor on and off the soccer field, where she was always willing to help others understand what they were doing wrong or by helping them become better. Always a positive attitude. She will truly be missed next year when she goes off to college. This month's unsung hero is Rebecca Lawler.
And Rebecca, are your parents here? Would you stand also so we can acknowledge you? Congratulations, Rebecca, on behalf of all of us up here. Okay, Superintendent, Dr. Brower.
Thank you, President Downey. It is my pleasure to ask Mr. Hanshu to come join us here on the dais to introduce to us the students of the month.
All right, thank you, Dr. Brower. Once again, it's my privilege to introduce the students of the month, senior of the month for March. First, I'd like to introduce to you Megan Moss. And Megan's here with her family. You can stand next to me. Would you mind rising and going to the crowd? And as always, we will roll the tape and we'll show you what we did video-wise. If we invite the board to come on over, and why don't you please get comfortable in the seats. Mr. Schubert, did you get the lights? Oh. Go ahead and start. You okay? Yeah, that's better. Yeah, that's good right there. Thank you. Perfect. Hello, I'm Mr. Hanshu, and welcome to Senior Spotlight March, where we meet our outstanding seniors of the month. Joining me now is Megan Moss, who is ranked within the top 2% of her class. Megan is also a very talented athlete who plays lacrosse and is the captain of the volleyball team. How do you balance your time to be so successful in both athletics and the classroom?
To do that, I try to make sure all my schoolwork is done as soon as possible. So I'll do practice or games or whatever, and then when I get home, I'll do all of my homework right away. And then if I have any time after that, I'll do anything extra.
And that seems to be key for most of our student athletes and people that are involved in activities here at Lacey High School. So congratulations for doing that very well. What extracurricular activities are you involved with?
I'm involved in several clubs within the school, including Close-Up, Interact, Intergenerational Club, and NHS. And besides that, I volunteer when I can on the weekends at a soup kitchen. And that's pretty much how I spend my time.
What do you do outside of school?
I play volleyball a lot. I hang out with my friends when I have the time. And I read. And that's pretty much all I can fit in.
So your time is pretty well taken up.
Yeah.
What are your future plans?
In the future, I plan to study biomedical engineering and then pursue a career in that field.
That's excellent. Well, good luck. We'll be rooting for you. Congratulations, Megan, on your selection as Senior of the Month. We'll be right back with Mark Press.
On behalf of the Board of Education, we want to congratulate you for being Senior of the Month. Good luck with your endeavor.
Our second Senior of the Month is Mark Press. Mark, why don't you come on down? And while Mark's walking over, I believe Dad's here next to Mark. Please stand up. Welcome back to Senior Spotlight March. Now joining us, the Senior of the Month, Mark Krause. Mark is involved with a number of sports and activities, both in and out of school, while maintaining a high standard in his classroom and scoring an impressive 4.8 GPA. Mark, can you tell us about your involvement in school athletics and activities here at Lacey Township?
Currently, I'm participating in tennis. I'm a 4-year member in tennis. I'm a senior captain this year, and hopefully going to be contending for the first tennis position. Over the years, I've been heavily involved in the performing arts department, the choir, concert band, marching band, jazz band. And I'm also in the Interact Club and a few other community service organizations outside of school.
That's excellent. I'm not very good at tennis, but I can be your ball boy. Maybe I'll be out there and help you. You're a talented musician who plays multiple instruments. Can you tell us about your interest in music and how you use your talents to help others?
Well, I've always been interested in music. My dad is actually a music teacher. So I learned to play a few instruments with him back when I was in middle school. I started playing guitar. I picked that up. I played in a few different groups since then. But a lot of the service-oriented stuff that I've done is with the school jazz band. We've done a few fundraisers now and then, and I feel really good doing that.
I've seen you play. You guys are quite good.
Thank you.
What activities are you involved with within the community?
I play in a band at my church. Other than that, it's not really anything named per se. I work a lot through the Interact Club and the Rotary department, but everything else is just whenever it comes up, I to help.
That's good. What are your future plans?
I plan on studying journalism and political science in college, and hopefully to pursue the field of that wherever I can get.
Good luck. We know you're going to be successful.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Mark, on your selection as Senior of the Month. That's going to wrap up Senior Spotlight March. We'll see you next month. Happy St. Patty's Day.
And
Yeah, missed it by a week, sorry.
And Mark, on behalf of the entire Board of Education, we want to congratulate you on being Senior of the Month. Good luck.
I thank you for the opportunity to share with you both of our seniors month, very dynamic young adults. Thank you.
At this time, what we'll be doing is transitioning to a presentation that Mr. Hansford has for us and Mr. Brown. So board members, I'm going to ask you if you want to grab maybe a pen or a pencil for yourselves, because we'll be giving you a copy of the presentation, and you can take a seat here in the audience, and we'll just need a few minutes to set up. So, anything else? You're all set. Board members will be receiving a paper copy of tonight's presentation. We'll also post this presentation on our website tomorrow so that you can have access to it as well.
All right, on behalf of the administration, the faculty, and staff of the high school, I'd like to thank everybody for this opportunity to present to the Board of Education and to the public our proposal for a block schedule for next year. We've been working on this for about a year and a half now. There was an outside shot this year. We've been doing this. It just was not in our favor to do it at that time, but now we feel poised and ready to move forward. I have our teacher of the year, Mr. Grillam, is going to be assisting me tonight. On behalf of the staff, we'll be filling you in with different information. To back up a little bit, what we wanted to do is we want to look how can we improve the academics in the lives of our students here at Lacey Township High School. Okay, not only successful in the classroom, but successful in life. You hear a lot of different things, like students are prepared for college, students are prepared for the real world. Well, how do we get them prepared for the real world? So we come up with a proposal. In order to do so, we need to create a change in the culture and climate of our school. That is not always an easy task to do. You have staff, you have students, you have the community to get on board with a new proposal. And we'll share with you some of the statistics we have behind us, but our staff, I'll let you know, is ready, willing, and able to go on this. Some of the other questions that we had, how about creating an academic schedule that challenges our students? Doing that without having them lose the rigor of our course of study, which we have enhanced, and also individualizing student growth. The state of New Jersey mandates that we have certain programs that students have to go through prior to graduation, but can they think outside the box? Can they take other things to enrich themselves as students? And a lot of times in different types of schedule, the question and the answer is the same. It's no, you cannot, because you have to take those finite courses. We want to expand our curriculum to match the needs of our students. And together we can make a difference now. And the reason I say now is, if you look at the needs of what our students and of our staff, I sat down and met with a group of teachers, and we gave them a question. If we do it now, how many pros can you think about doing it right now? And I said, now let's think about next year. Let's say we don't do it a year, we skip a year. Let's talk about the pros of doing it in a year from now. The score was 32-8, so a 4-to-1 ratio. The faculty feels this is the year to do it. We're ready to do it, we're poised to do it, we're going to train our staff to do it, and they're ready to jump into it and get started on a new schedule, block schedule. And we're going to look and see what the research says.
Ladies and gentlemen, the research shows that block scheduling will decrease disciplinary issues and improve attendance. And logic dictates that when you have fewer discipline issues and better attendance, it's going to lead to increased student academic achievement.
All right, a little education about block scheduling. If you know, how many people can raise your hand if you know something about block scheduling? Okay, if you did not raise your hand by the time you leave, you'll be a semi-expert about block scheduling. There's two different types of main block schedules. Okay, there are different varieties. There's different flexible schedules, modified schedules, but the two major ones you're going to find in this area are 4x4. And basically what you do is if you take like a 7 or 8 period day, you break those periods into like a double period, into one single period being like 4 periods a day. What 4x4 does is it takes 4 classes, such as English, Science, PE, and an elective, and you do it for an entire semester, much like a college would do. And then, as you come back in February and June, you start your second semester. Right? We did look at this model. There's many schools that use this. Neptune High School utilizes this. There are certain downfalls with the 4x4, which we talked with our faculty about making a decision. And AB is alternate days. You do the same thing as you would with a 4x4, but instead of splitting into semesters, you're splitting into one day and the next day. We thought, instead of calling it AB, call it Cardinal and Navy Day, since those are our school colors. And we can hang a flag at the end of the hallway so you know if you're in Cardinal or Navy Day. It would just simply be an AB alternating day. So example would be on A Day, which could be a Monday, you have English, Science, PE, and an elective. On a Tuesday, the second day, B Day, you have Math, History, World, Language, and an elective. And we just alternate 1 and 1 and 1 and 1. Mixes it up for the students and also mixes the schedule up for the the staff to make it interesting. So that's another type. And you see from the calendar, you just change from day to day to day. Some school districts set a calendar and they're set. I know Middletown North just adopted a block scheduling AB day, and they said what it is what you're going to stay with. Farmington, the same thing. They got in trouble, you know why? The white stuff that falls from the sky, snow, where they missed a lot of days. Okay? Our proposal would be we would just alternate. If you're on an A day, the next time we're going to be on an E day. So knowing potentially if it had pending storm, Tuesday into Wednesday, well, we would just know if you have an A day, the next day you roll to a day. All right, Brick Township High School. Now, what we're looking at is we're looking at people that are schools that are in our peer group. Okay, and there's a New Jersey performance, like a report card, if you call it the New Jersey report card, where they had a different factor group. But Brick Township is very similar to us as being a factor group, and they're in our peer group. And if we compare to them, they actually went to the block scheduling in 2009. Now, it usually takes 2 to about 5 years for you to see some change in a block. Okay, we're going to propose, we'll show you, we're going to see a fairly immediate change in ours, because we're going to introduce more curriculum. But they do a 4x4 80-minute class period. And if you look at the scores, now to say that a block scheduling is going to increase the proficiency of students on state testing or academics, we do know it affects attendance, and if you're in school, you're learning, and it does decrease discipline. And if you're not down in the office, you're in the classroom, of course, there's a better continuum of learning. What you need to look at is, if you look at the lines, you'll see growth. They're growing, they're growing, they're growing. Now, to boast, yes, Lacey Township does historically score better than Brick. But if you look what Brick has been doing, is they've been growing each and every year, and eventually will catch up to us. Hopefully not, of course. Brick in math also. Okay, scores aren't overly impressive, but if you look at it, you see growth, you see growth, you see growth. As a building administration, and if I see that, you sit there and say, hey, we want to be like the guys getting the 90s. However, we're growing, we're getting there. We're making strides with our staff, our students, and our schedule.
Before the implementation of block scheduling at Brick Township High School, there were concerns. Many of the parents had some concerns. For example, some of them worried that there would be a lack of continuity in the classes. For example, my child, is going to classes on Monday and then not going back to, say, their German class again until Wednesday. And there's a lack of continuity there. Some of them were concerned that perhaps their son wouldn't be able to maintain his attention span for 80 minutes. And some of them had some concerns about absenteeism. If my daughter is absent on Monday, she's missing 80 minutes of classroom time rather than just 40 or 45 minutes. And those are all legitimate concerns. But after they went into block scheduling, they were singing a completely different tune after that. This one mother, for example, down on the bottom, she explained how her son adapted very well to block scheduling, how she called it a godsend, and his average went up from a C to a B+. And that's going from 8th grade into high school, and there's already a challenge for students to go from a middle school environment to a high school environment.
I see how you threw German in there.
I have to. I got to plug it in whenever I can.
Times, yeah. All right. Just count how many times this is German class in the next 10 minutes. Okay. Lakeland Regional High School. Okay, this is way up north, but they're in our peer group. Okay. They have an 88-minute AB, which is what we're looking to do. If you look at their scores, they're scoring pretty well. They're in the 90th percentile, continuous growth, and maintaining. All right, so the block schedule's maintaining. Same thing in math. Math scores you'll notice are a little bit lower than language arts. That's very characteristic of many schools, but of course, a continuum of growth. Manasquan High School, a neighbor of ours, did the 4x4. They've been doing this since 1990. We're 2014. And they've maintained the block scheduling, but as you can see, from 94% up to about 98% of the students that are proficient or advanced proficient on the HESPA, and math scores too. Okay, maintaining growth and staying strong. Block scheduling South Brunswick High School. Created another group within our cohort since 1996. Yeah, I know. Wow, it is. It's wow. And you know what, folks? I'm not going to lie. I want Lacey Township to be just like that. But I feel if we're not like that, then I can't, put my head on the pillow at night sleeping as well. If I know we're doing this, and I know we have the staff, we have the students to do it. South Brunswick. Another wow.
okay? All right, if you look at where we're at, and we're the first group here at Lacey Township, okay? You know, we're kind of holding our own against Brick and Brick Memorial. Don't forget, they're in the block and they're starting to grow, especially Brick. Brick is the classic example. Lakeland, Manasquan, and South Brunswick. All right? So they're scoring well. Not that the test is the end all, but it is a cognitive measurement. And of course, you see with the math.
So the journey to where we are today has lasted almost a year and a half. And what we've done is we've had meetings with the high school scheduling committee. We've met with student representatives and the administration at both the district and the school level. We've met with staff. We've had faculty meetings, workshops, training is ongoing. We've visited different schools. And very recently, we took a survey, we teachers here at the high school, and over 92% of the teachers have voted yes, we want to move on with block scheduling. And if you think about it, over 92%, that's over 1,000 years of teaching experience. Over 1,000 years of experience in the classroom saying, yes, let's go forward with block scheduling. We've met with parents twice at 2 freshman orientations, the LTEA, and of course we've met with the Board of Education's Curriculum and Finance Committees. When it comes to the curriculum aspects, of course we visited schools, and the staff proposed different new elective curricula, well over 35 different new electives. And we took those classes, we presented them to the student body, and they gave us a yay or a nay. So we narrowed it down to over now 25 new elective courses, and right now some were, what do we call that word? We put out an APB.
Yeah, we're writing the
that's it. We posted the positions for writing the curriculum. And the program of study, it's kind of equivalent to the college course description book that you would get. That's been updated. And right now the students are selecting their courses for next year. Right now we're spending over 46 minutes. My students are spending over 46 minutes a day in the hallways alone, not in the classroom, in the hallways. That means that time between period 1 and period 2, between periods 4 and period 5, you add it all up, it's 46 minutes in the hallway.
That equals the whole class period they're walking around the building. And of course, you do have to walk around the building a little bit, can't get that wrong, but we're looking to cut that back to 26 minutes of walking around the building, getting class to class. All right? That's a net savings of 200 minutes a day. Excuse me, 20 minutes a day. Excuse me. Well, I got some big numbers coming up that road. 20 minutes a day. 200, can you imagine? Just 20 minutes. They sit there and say, gee, it's only 20 minutes. Within a defined school day, defined 20 minutes is substantial, especially if you look at 5 days a week being 100 minutes. It adds up.
Students right now are enrolled in 7 courses. They take 7 courses every day.
Our proposal will include 8 courses, okay, to increase the rigor for our students and also the selection of other electives that our students can take besides the mandated state electives that we do propose to have, of course, in our schedule.
Currently, half of our teachers in the high school are teaching 5 periods, and half of our teachers are teaching 6 periods.
And this is key, that all teachers would teach 6 periods, and that gives us greater flexibility in the teaching assignments and also in the coverage of the building.
Now remember, half of our teachers are teaching are only teaching 5 periods. They have a duty. The teachers, the other half, who are teaching 6 classes, they have no duty.
So all teachers would have some form of supervisory duty where they're still in contact with students involved in our building, different areas of our building. When it comes to safety and security, of course, we do have a safe and secure building, but this also would increase that.
And as a teacher, I've been teaching for 16 years, and as a parent, I know how important it is to have security in the classroom and in the building. And just, can you imagine doubling the number of eyes that are in the hallways, or that are in outside the bathrooms, or in the cafeterias? It would just, it would be wonderful. Doubling the number of eyes. Right now, homeroom is a separate period. Kids come off the bus, go to their lockers, go to homeroom, and then they spend a couple of minutes between homeroom and first period.
Our new schedule would put it within period 1. So once again, students come off the bus, go right to their academic classroom, and we get set for the day.
And currently, my periods last 46 minutes. So my kids come in, and we spend about maybe 5 minutes, sometimes 7 minutes in the beginning of the period, kind of just warming up, getting things started with the do now. Then we'll take about 5, maybe 7 minutes at the end with some closure. That leaves me with about 30 to 35 minutes in the middle to have actual active learning time.
We're looking to propose 85-minute periods. There's more time on academic tasks, and it's student-centered learning. Teachers can do more activities that are student-centered in the classroom within those different transitional periods they have within an 85-minute period. Let me share with you a quick story. I taught in Lacey Township, taught honors biology, and I was like the king of frog dissections. Now you can say ooh, everybody say ooh. Yeah. It's great stuff, the frog. Okay, so we're doing the frog dissection. 5 school days on the frog. You know what we did for at least a day or so? I would give quick instruction, they would take out the specimens, they would get to work, they would clean up, put stuff back again. Because you know what? That's good lab science. When I went down to Barnegat, and I taught Barnegat High School in a block schedule, I had students in my honors class say, Mr. Haynes, what do we do? We're done. After the first double period of class. I said, there's no way you're done. We didn't finish it. Yes, we did. You see the Vollmer teeth. And actually, yeah, we saw that. They did everything. They knew everything because they had the continuum through the period. So here we're talking about 5 periods versus, it actually came up 3 periods down in Barnegat because of the block schedule. And that's the advantage we have with the block, is a continuum through the classroom. And without the transition of intro, closure, cleanup, breakdown.
And it's not just the sciences, it's also, for example, foreign language. You know, if I had 85 minutes, and by foreign language I mean German, of course.
Is there any other?
Sorry, I said you were that. But if I had 85 minutes, man, right now, for example, my German 3 students were reading a book and we're converting it into a film. So if I spent 5 minutes in the beginning and 5 minutes at the end kind of setting up and having some closure, right, that gives my students an hour and 15 minutes to be actively engaged in some learning. That means that they could take that amount of time to take out the video camera, the tripod, take out the props, get things going, videotape, and at the end of the period, close up shop. Right now, with 45 minutes, it's going to take me 5 days. If I had just 2 85-minute periods, I'd be able to take care of that. Just think about this. Ready? Monday, set up, set and take apart, right? Tuesday, set everything up, break everything down. Wednesday, set everything up, break everything down. This goes for 5 days. If I just had 2 85-minute periods, I'd be able to get that all done without being interrupted. It would just be a much smoother classroom period learning experience.
Now, if we really look at Lacey Township, then you can look at Brick Township, you look at Barnegat, Manasquan, Middletown North, Middletown South, the different schools that have adopted this fairly recently in the past. Let's talk about Lacey Township, because you know what? It has to hit home. It has to be part of what we want as a school in the community. If you look at what we've been doing for the most part since 1981 to now, it's have homeroom, and sometimes homeroom is moved, but we have our 11-period day, which is really a 7-period day. It really has not changed since the beginning of time in Lacey High School history. Our proposal with the AB schedule, and it looks a lot cleaner. Why? Because it is. There's less moving around. It's less backpack, we call it, we'll talk about it with students. You unload the buses, there's always 10 minutes for that. You go to first period homeroom, have a little bit of a longer time, you actually put homeroom in the end period or beginning, and then you go period 2, 3, you have lunch somewhere, period 3, period 4, and then bus depart. Paying tomorrow is another day. The thing I like about this schedule, and I can say this over and over again, it gives students a schedule like they're going to see in college. It's something like you're going to see in life. There's variety, there's time to do homework. It's not like it's got to be done tonight. Not tonight, do it tomorrow. You got to have it done the day after. If you look at the time, it's 344 minutes. We actually gain 22 total minutes, 20 from the hallway, 2 from our homeroom, and it gives us 22 minutes a day, 110 a week, or 3,960 minutes a year. That's substantial. If you look at 21st century learners, we're talking about 1981 learners and the schedule we have. If you want to see 21st century learners, look at the difference in technology. Now I remember, I've been around a little bit, I had that phone, I had that phone, and I now have that phone, okay? My phones have changed, but the curriculum, is growing. The schedule has not changed here. It's the same schedule I taught in back when I came here in 1994, and it's still the same. So that's why, in one way, it was very easy for me to transition. As a principal, I came into the same schedule I left with about 10 years ago. But it's 2014. All right, we have the PARC testing coming up. We actually are starting a practice test with this to run this through starting Wednesday. And next year we have the PARC test. Goodbye HESPA. Goodbye HSPT. It's now PARC. So we got to give it. Our students and our learners are ready for 21st century learning. Let's facilitate that.
Under block, this is a sample 11th grader student schedule. So for example, day A, that would be a Monday. They would go to their physics class, history, then they go to their favorite class, German, then they go to lunch and they talk about how much fun they had in German class, then they go to algebra, and then Tuesday, for example, they'd have a completely different schedule. They go to English, gym, have some fun in comparative mythology, go to lunch, and then their financial literacy class.
And just to share with you once again, my 21st year teaching, which was my last year actually in the classroom, I was in a modified block. The weeks, the days, they just kind of flew by because you're so engaged and busy with the students. And I guarantee this, if you ever sit in a classroom that's 85 minutes long and it's done right, when you go back to a 46-minute, 48-minute class period, it seems like it's a half-day snow day. You're like, hello, goodbye, hello, goodbye. You need that extra time for good instruction.
Here's a sample teacher schedule. A science teacher perhaps might teach biology on Monday, followed by honors bio, then have their duty and prep and a lunch, and then wrap up their day with bio. Tuesday, completely different day, bio, duty prep, environmental science perhaps, lunch, and then the last class, bio at the end.
And this teacher does not teach German.
No, it's unfortunate.
All right, let's look at the different, this is really the magic. Now, I like to use the word magic. This is the magic of all the work that we've done, accumulated over the years, culminated over the last 2 years on bringing forth a schedule that's not only good for our students, our building, our school, and our staff. But if you look at this, here's really where it all comes together to make so much sense. Freshman year, freshmen come in, and it's like they hear at the middle school, you have the high school, there's all these selections. Yes and no, there are a lot of selections. There's a lot of different courses you're taking. Most of them are mandated by the state of New Jersey what you need to take. So we try to get those out of the way early on so then you can expand. And it makes sense to do it that way. So you have your English, PE, math, science, history. Gotta have them. World language. You need at least one. Colleges want 2, if not 3 or 4 years of that. You get that. Performing and visual arts. You need that to graduate. We want to have our students exposed to that early so they can keep their interest going in those programs, trying to expand those. The key is freshman focus. Brand new course. And it's highlighted. Students come in, and what we're going to do is address every single learner, whether it's a challenged learner to the highest level learner, to try to get them to the next level. If you talk about state testing right now, students get a proficient score. Usually, and I hate to say it, we're like, hey, yay, happy. Why can't we press those kids to do better and challenge them to say, hey, you're close enough to become advanced proficient? Why just let them say, okay, you're fine, we're happy you passed. Why can't we push them when we can? In freshman focus, we're going to identify all different levels of the students when it comes to their math and writing. They're going to have one marking period of writing and language arts, one marking period of math skills, and we asked our staff to come up, what are our freshmen lacking? And they came up with these big lists of things we need to touch base with. Also, for another semester, another 2 marking periods, they're going to have technology and research, where they're going to learn how to do research, use of technology, Naviance, the student portal, how to get websites that are valid, get all those key elements to make them successful in the high school. And then the other thing, are more of social skills and success. Effective thinking skills. How are you going to, we talk about PIVs, drug use, bring counselors in, get speakers in to address our freshmen and get them ready for the real world and for the world that lies ahead as a student. Sophomore year and junior year are fairly similar. There's more electives though. We have core electives and career electives. A lot of the electives we have right now we consider to be career electives. We have a whole list of brand new electives we want to challenge our students with. And there are great electives. And we'll show those to you in a little bit. Also, they'll be doing the online learning. You want every student to have an online learning experience. Grade 11. We moved financial literacy, which most freshmen take now, to grade 11. And here's how it happened. The teacher came up and said, you know what? It doesn't make sense to give it to the freshmen. I know we're trying to get it out of the way. It makes sense to give it to juniors. And we said, how so? How does that work? He said, well, if you give $100 to a junior, they have a car expense, they have a girlfriend, they're saving to go to the prom, they got to save for this, they have insurance to pay gas for the car. So that's why we moved it up there. It makes sense so they could find out how to manage their life. This is the true magic. Oop, I didn't want to move too far. Senior year, English, phys ed, gotta have them. A vast majority of students may elect to just do what other seniors do, take core curriculum academics. Other students, of course, may be doing some more lower or online learning. We're going to have a partnership with Ocean County College, and even though we do offer college courses here, we have a college course, there's some stuff at night. During the school day, we're going to have 3 to 4 college courses that students can take while attending Lacey Township High School as seniors. They do it for a semester, they do it for another semester. Yes, there is a cost to the parents for these courses, because they're college courses through OCC, but it's a fraction of the cost. I know because both my children went through the Jumpstart program, and you can still do Jumpstart, where you leave and go to OCC, but we want to bring OCC here. If you drive by, there's a school up the road, they have a big sign about Georgianport University. Well, we're going to have a partnership with Ocean County College, because we're Ocean County, and we're going to work with OCC. Our seniors can walk across that stage, get their high school diploma, and step off that stage knowing they have 24 college credits before they step onto a college campus. They're almost through their freshman year. Mom, Dad, I'm telling you, it's an amazing feeling knowing your kid's going into college with all that behind them at a fraction of the cost. I'll let you know because I lived that with my son. He got his transcript at Stockton, and I go, Jimmy, you got 14 credits already. I was so proud. He's like, oh, you, Dad. He didn't think anything of it. To me, it was money in the bank and closer for him to graduate and move on with life, which is good. You don't move out of the house. That's a good thing, too. But he was there. He's ready to go. And he was already in the college, and he knew what it was all about. Workplace readiness, right now, if you wanted to go into the workplace, we have students that need to. They need to help their families. They want that experience. What they do is they give me a letter from a pizza place saying, you will be driving for me. And Mom and Dad say they can leave school early, and that's all there is. I don't like that. I really don't. I know it's a past practice. I know we're still doing that. But what we want to do is have a business course set up for those students that are leaving so they can take that workplace readiness they had outside, bring it in. They could balance a budget sheet. They could look at their hours. They could see how taxes are taken out. They could talk about advertisements and advertising and different things that they do at their business that they're working at. Senior seminar. This is pretty awesome. How would you like to take a course in this facility right here? Wouldn't that be pretty cool? How would you like to sit in here with 50 other students and have a seminar series on mythology with one of our teachers? A lot like going to a college where you're in a big lecture type hall. Okay, it'd be interactive. We have Chromebooks. We have different things you do. We're going to have seminar classes. Once again, to give those teachers that experience of being outside the school in a college type setting. And of course, electives, electives, electives. We have plenty of electives to give to our seniors. We also want to increase the rigor every year, 5 credits. So students have more rigor in their graduation requirements. 140 by the incoming freshman class. They're going to be walking across the stage with 20 more credits in their back pocket going to college. And they're, of course, academically rich courses that they're going to be carrying. So 5 a year, we increase that by.
So what we're proposing is enriching our current curriculum. We're proposing over 25 new electives. It's going to result in smaller class sizes. Mr. Henshu talked to us about the freshman focus. There are going to be greater opportunities for AP courses and honor courses. Already there are more of them that we're looking into for next year, but even over the following years, we want to have some more AP and honors classes. Again, remediation, they're not going to be pulling our students out of one class to help them get better in some other subject area. And also, if a student happens to fail a class, say 1 year, the next year there's going to be increased flexibility within that schedule to find a place for them to make that course up. Mr. Andrew talked to us about the senior options, the senior seminar, and the workplace readiness, the Jumpstart program, again, an opportunity to graduate with 24 college credits by the time you graduate, online learning opportunities, and what's really awesome is if you're a student in the vocational education program, there's going to be an extra course in your schedule, perhaps one of the career courses.
Okay, if right now, for whatever reason, we cannot do block next year, okay? You're looking at the electives for next year. That's it. Sorry, that's pretty much, we'll try to get inventive, see what we can do to change things, to better ourselves. We always want to better ourselves. With block scheduling, this is what we're proposing. And there's a lot of great titles up there. You know, from guitar, principles of chemistry. We're looking at what the needs are of our students. This is proposed by our staff, voted on by students last year, and these are the ones that have survived the time. We have students sign up for these courses. We're going to monitor, of course, the enrollment in numbers and keep those courses that have the higher enrollment.
So the block schedule is better for students, it's better for the school building, it's better for the staff. I mean, for the students, I mean, there are 25 extra courses to choose from next year. They're going to have a lighter backpack. And I'm not just talking about the backpack on their back or the books that they're carrying in their arms. I just mean their day is going to be less frenetic, right, and more focused. They're going to have a schedule more similar to a college schedule. I mean, I'm 38 years old. I'll say 28. All right.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, right. I'm 38 years old. Nothing that I do, or most adults, okay, I'm a high school teacher, right? But most adults don't have anything in their lives that mirrors a high school schedule, right? That just fractures your day up into 7 pieces. Most adults don't have a schedule, follow a schedule that's been in place for over 30 years without change. So this is just introducing them to something that's a little bit more realistic. There are going to be increased opportunities for student-centered learning. For example, in my 85-minute German 5 class, there's going to be increased rigor in education towards the New Jersey mandated graduation requirements, right? So these students are going to be graduating with 140 credits. That's 20 more credits than the seniors that are graduating this year. And block has already been part of the middle school. So the students that are in the middle school right now, they already have a flavor of block scheduling, so the transition is going to be smooth when they come into the high school next year.
And we even decided if we ended up waiting a year on this, we'd have kids that were 7th graders 2 years ago, 8th graders this year. Next year would be our freshmen. We would take them out of a block, put them into a 7-period day, and then maybe hopefully put them back into a block. That transition would not be as smooth as keeping the block and then have them go through it. We talk about the school building. As an administrator, I'm telling you, this is magic for our building. And I like that word magic, and I keep using it. Less hallway movement. Right now, between periods, we have movement. Between lunches, we have movement. There's a lot of movement. If you saw our schedule, there's a lot of movement between those periods. Every period is bells ringing. 4 classes per day. So even if you're a teacher that floats and shares rooms, you're only going to 4 rooms in a day. You're not going to like 5 rooms or 6 rooms. There's 3 lunch periods. So there's time for students to go to lunch, come back, and it's all within 1 period of the day. So that's the 1 period we're moving, not the rest of the day. And teachers have duty. I cannot tell you how, once again, magical. This is something we need as a building. We need those teachers in the hallways, we need those teachers in the media center helping students. We need the teachers to be around the students when they're in other areas of the building.
Block schedule, it's better for the staff. I mean, it increases the instructional opportunities within the classroom. I can implement, in my classroom, I can implement more teaching strategies. And my backpack will be lighter. And again, I'm not just talking about my bag on my shoulder. I'm also just talking about that less frenetic and just more focused day. I'll have an opportunity to focus more on the relationships with my kids. In 46 minutes, 46 times 7, in that fragmented day, I'm unable to give all of that attention that I want to all of my kids. But if I have an 85-minute period, I just have more time, less interrupted time, to just focus on the relationship with my kids. And studies have shown over and over again that when a student in a high school has a positive relationship, is aligned with at least one adult in the school building, it's going to result in less discipline issues and higher grades for these kids. They're just going to feel safer in their school, knowing that they have somebody to go to. And that's a huge plus for me. And of course, there's going to be better reflection and planning, knowing that I don't have 7 periods in front of me for me to be thinking about. I just have 3 courses to worry about in any given day.
Now, you've heard from us, as an administrator, as a staff member, one of our good teachers, but of course the individuals that are very important in this. We'd be missing, we didn't share with you. Oh, try that again.
Confused about something in class, the extra time would be great to just sit down and my teacher would help me out and figure it out.
It would feel like a whirlwind coming into a class, getting set up, and leaving the way our schedule is set up right now. But I feel like block scheduling would help me focus on what I'm learning more by providing a more focused day and less transitions through our classes.
Time that block scheduling will provide, I'll be able to listen to the teacher and learn, and then go back to my workstation and actually do an activity.
The lessons include teaching, learning, and block scheduling will have more time for student-centered activities and a more focused approach throughout the day.
Chances are we won't be going to the same class in college every day, and classes will be much longer. But hey, block scheduling can help prepare us for that one.
Working on projects, I feel like I'm just getting started in development. With block scheduling, I feel like I have more time to work on my projects and creatively show what I've learned.
Hi, I'm already in a block class, and I like it because I am in here for now for an hour and a half. We have a lesson, we have a presentation in the front, and we have a lab that we work on, and we still have time at the end of class. If we have homework, we get it done in class, and we don't have to do much at home.
I'm already in block scheduling, and I love it because you get to have hands-on activities instead of just straight up taking notes.
Hi, my name is Brendan, and I like block scheduling because we don't have to spend 2 days on notes. You can spend 1 day on notes and then just move on.
I'm already in block scheduling this year, and I like it because I get more time on my projects.
The only problem with going to block scheduling next year is
we won't get to be part of it.
And right there, we have 2 teachers that are retiring and some students that will be graduating, so they won't be part of it next year. That's what their problem is, so unfortunately. This is something that's better for our students. Of course, that's first. Someone told me one time, I said, well, what about the teachers? What do the teachers think? Yeah, it's really important what the teachers think, but you know what? It's more important that it's good for the students, because that's what we're here for. That is our business, serving the students, serving the public, taking care of our students, our learners. But it's better for the school building, it's better for our staff, it's better for Lacey. Folks, I started out in Brick Township, I came to Lacey Township, got to teach in the high school, always wanted to be a high school biology teacher. I met that goal in my life. I wanted to become an administrator. I had the opportunity to go down to Barney and open a brand new high school, which was an amazing, amazing thing. My last year teaching was there. My first year as administrator was there. I came back here, this is my home. I want people to look at us and say we're the best. Here's some of the resources we have. If you look at our cast and crew, it's a major group of people from other schools that have been helping us out, from administrative team to individuals. We have some members from our school curriculum committee, we have people from our school scheduling committee, did a lot of work with this. And online, we invite parents and, of course, our students. They'll be on the student portal and parent portal. There'll be a link there, also the website, for you to take a brief read. It won't take you a few minutes, and you can put a comment down on some questions about the block and implementing the block, and really get your thoughts on that. We were done with the presentation. I really appreciate everybody. You guys were a great audience, kind of like my old classes, almost like a German class. Almost. But if there's any questions? Remember, there's no such thing as a stupid question. No, all questions are welcome. Any questions? Any comments? Yes, sir.
You guys talked earlier about the difference between a 4x4 and an AV. What were some of the reasons that you decided to go with the AV instead of 4x4?
That is a great question. We went to, and I'll compare us to Neptune High School. In speaking with the administration of Neptune High School, they decided to go to use the 4x4. They had a very high failure rate from one marking period or one semester to the next. So their decision was, well, if we have a student who failed Algebra 1 first semester, they could take Algebra 1 second semester and not lose stride. And talking to other students, some of the like honor roll, AP type students, some of those students said, yeah, it isn't so great for this reason. Number one was state testing, also testing on SATs, where they maybe did not have math that semester. And it could happen, especially if scheduling isn't worked out perfectly. You could have math, like say for instance, in the fall of your freshman year, you may not have it until the spring of your sophomore year. And Maurice, you maybe make a comment on that.
That's right. You know, and with the introduction of park testing coming in, a lot of schools are switching away from 4x4 and forward AB, like what we are proposing. For example, you know, English and math. You know, you're starting the first semester, right? The second semester, you're not even in math. You're not even in English, and you have that time to forget. Same with foreign language. You mean to tell me for the first 2 marking periods, you're going to take German 3, and then you're going to remember everything that I taught you for marking period 3 and 4? Yeah, I mean, when you come back the next year, it's just really no continuity there. So AB is really the best for us.
And we found what a lot of schools were doing with their AP students, because you may not even have AP classes at that time, you're taking a test halfway through the semester. They were actually doing a cram review, which it seems almost like ridiculous, because you're throwing your academic program out the window saying, we've got to review because you didn't have this yet, and you've got a test coming up in a week or 2. We feel that there's greater continuity in the AB block, and I think our staff do that too when they actually have the opportunity to vote for it.
Question?
Yes?
Is STEM going to be included still in the elective list?
Yes. And for STEM, it's a little STEM friendlier because in the past it would really lock up their electives. Now they still actually can have an elective in there. Yes?
How does it work at the middle school?
The middle school, I think the guy that authored that and worked hard on it was a really good-looking, highly intellectual type individual. But what ended up happening at the middle school has always had a double period of English. And coming from it, I'll give myself a little pat on the back just once. But what ended up happening is when I taught in Rapid Middle School in Barney there, and when I came up here, I said, hey, how do you guys do so well in state testing? Your kids do really great. Now, once again, state testing isn't the end goal, but I'll use this as an example. The reason being was we had 6th, 7th, and 8th graders that had double period English and double period math. Our students at 7th and 8th grade only had 1 period of math. And we're sitting there saying, hey, if you look at that, over 3 years, they're having 3 extra years of math than our kids. So you want to know whether they're scoring better? They're spending 3 more years in the classroom than our students in that 6th to 7th grade period. So that's how it worked there. There is an opportunity, it's up to Principal King, where he could block together science and social studies, go every other day like AB, and he could do the same thing with the elective and phys ed. I'm not pushing him in that direction. If he comes here to talk to you, I'll be sitting here listening. Okay? But it's very potential. Any other questions?
I just have one more.
You're good. Go for it.
Are you presenting this? Is this done happening, or is this you're telling us, hey, this is what we'd like to do, and the board's got to vote on it?
The biggest word I'll use is the word proposal. This is a proposal. We're working on it for a year and a half. And I'll put this in this plain, simple English. As a principal of the high school, with my team, we set up the budget, we set up our curriculum, we set up next year. We are presenting this because we really believe in this, and this has been put in our budget for next year. Yes, it's up to the Board of Education to represent, of course, the good of all to vote on this. So it's proposed. When we spoke to the orientation of the 9th graders coming in and our 9th graders during the summer of last year, we said it's just a proposal, something we were working on. We've got a lot of support for it. Any other questions? You guys are an amazing audience. We appreciate all your time. The board, we thank you also. And Dr. Brower, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Hinch. Thank you, Mr. Miller. Thank you so much. Nice for you to join us.
We'd like to thank you, gentlemen, for an outstanding presentation. Again, if you have any questions during public comment, you can ask them as well. Our students, if you'd like to be dismissed, I know you have homework to do. We're not in block scheduling yet, so you better get home and get it done. Yes, and are any students in the audience that would like to go, you may. Sure, go ahead. Oh, no, we're not open for public session yet. Soon. Okay, sorry. Okay, Superintendent Brower.
I want to draw your attention to the monthly reports that we include every month for you, the harassment, intimidation, bullying, suspension, fire drill, security drill report. I also want to mention that on our website currently, we have the anti-bullying rights data, which is now published in the form that we get it from the State Department, and next month we'll be presenting that fully to you. Before I continue with my comments, and you know that in the past I would like to take a moment and highlight some of the amazing accomplishments of our students and our staff, I do need, and I feel compelled to make this statement before I continue. I realize that the action taken by the Lacey Township Board of Education last month to restore me to active duty may not be understood or might not be applauded by all members of this community. I want to thank the board for their willingness to consider all of the facts and the circumstances surrounding the situation where I was wrongly and unjustly accused. I am very pleased and honored that there is enough confidence in my abilities to allow me to lead this fine district once again, and I thank you most sincerely for the opportunity. I also thank the people who believed in me personally and professionally. Their unwavering support helped me and my family immeasurably through this ordeal. With regard to the original and very public allegations made against me, I will say this: I am innocent and I have been fully exonerated. I was wrongly and unjustly accused related to a matter that took place in another school district almost 5 years ago. And although it took longer than I could have ever imagined, ultimately, when evidence was turned over from my attorney's investigation to the prosecutor to present to a new grand jury, evidence that the first grand jury never heard, the charges against me were all dropped with prejudice. I realize that these false allegations and the various interpretations spread like wildfire through a combination of inaccurate public and social media. And although these factors were out of my control, I still do want to apologize to the Lacey Township community for the many challenges that this situation created for this school district. I will not comment on this matter again publicly, for doing so will only continue to be a distraction for this district. I look forward to having Lacey School District make news for the right reasons and for focusing the spotlight on our great students and the wonderful teachers and staff that work with them each day. I want to assure everyone that I have returned fully prepared and very excited to work with the Board of Education, the staff, the parents, and this entire community. Nothing ahead of us will be as difficult as what is now behind us. I pledge my commitment and my leadership so that we may continue to move this district forward and to ensure that Lacey schools remain and continue to be a great place to learn and work. Thank you. I want to recognize all the students and the stars of the month. February and March has been amazing. Lots of student recognition and great celebrations in our classrooms. First, all of our schools celebrated the wonders of literacy in some way, whether it was with celebrating Dr. Seuss readings on his birthday just a few weeks ago. Theodore Seuss Geisel still entertaining us today as Dr. Seuss celebrated 110 years on March 2nd. He was asked how long it took him to write The Cat in the Hat. He said he thought he could knock it out in a week or so. And in the end, it took him 1.5 years to write. Writing is not easy. And my message to our teachers and our parents is writing is not easy for our students. If it wasn't easy for Dr. Seuss, it's not easy for us. So we celebrate the learning of literacy in our schools with the sponsorship this month of the Young Authors Conference. Earlier, the literacy fairs at Forked River and Cedar Creek, I had an opportunity to attend Lenoka Harbors, and I want to commend Cedar Creek for their first grade writing project with students as pen pals. Mill Pond had a readathon, and I want to draw your attention to page 12, where Mrs. Ritigliano went above and beyond, having her students read about owl pellets and bullies, and decorated their classroom door, only to reach out to the author on Facebook, and author Tony DePalma sent a personal message to Mrs. Ritigliano's class. So great job to our students at Mill Pond. I want to take a moment and recognize our parent groups. You know that we can't do what we do without you. These past few months, it's been about volleyball and basketball, and tomorrow night, I think we'll be playing with the Harlem Wizards, at least being entertained by them. And all are welcome. I also want to mention and recognize the book fair and the work at the family night at Mill Pond School. Service and volunteerism run through our schools like no one's business. I want to recognize all of our jumpers at Forked River and Lenoka Harbor who jump roped for Heart, Cedar Creek with their Go Red Day, and Lenoka Harbor for their Ronald McDonald House Intergenerational Day and Caps for Cancer. I want to take a moment and recognize the work of the task force of the Municipal Alliance. That program is amazing in its second year, very well attended, very informative, and I would invite you to go to our website where if you didn't have an opportunity to attend that night, it is online. I also want to take a moment to recognize Chief Dave Caproda, Officer Michael Hine, and Officer Joseph Soto. I saw him in action at Mill Pond as they were handing out iPad minis and iPad touches and all kinds of gifts for students who participated in the COPS card program. I want to thank the police officers for their work in helping us know and never forget that police officers are our friends, and we need to develop positive relationships with them in our community. March is Music in Our Schools Month, lots of music. I hope you'll have an opportunity. Spring band concert at Mill Pond tomorrow, chorus concert at Cedar Creek on Wednesday, recorder concert at Forked River on Thursday, and the Seussical coming up at the high school. Few more. Middle school math club, amazing work. Wishing all of our students success at their competition this week. Michael Tufano, your windmill and clean energy project was best in show. Congratulations to you and your teacher, Mr. Kuzan. I want to recognize Ms. Hughes and Mr. Hanshu for your work at the Winter Athletics sports ceremony, recognizing our athletes and our retirees. Students of the month, 7th grade, great job. We're all highlighted in there, as well as our high school students, Megan, Mark, and Rebecca. We also announced our Teachers of the Year, so you will need to give me a few minutes as I announce Heather O'Cassidy at Forked River, Christine Anderson at Lenoka Harbor, Jennifer Bentley at Cedar Creek, Christina Hayes at Mill Pond, Peggy Schull at our middle school, and Maurice Grillon at our high school. And we are so proud of the work that they do in the classroom. You bring passion, enthusiasm, and you are just role models for our kids. And I know that some of your students today will be future teachers. The board tonight has for their consideration and approval a revised calendar. This would be considered a lose-lose for me as we try to make amends to a calendar that has been truly affected by the snow. And I will send a shout out to anyone who is praying for snow this week to please stop, because we want to end school on Friday the 20th. The new calendar provides for that. It includes a half day on Monday the 14th and a full day on the 21st. And lastly, I just want to also mention that this evening the board will have for its consideration the approval of a tentative budget for 2014-15. This is the first and most formal step of the process, a step that includes a preliminary review of the district's budget by our county office. Next month, I will present the entire budget with a presentation for 2014-15. And as most of you know, that this budget will continue to be discussed and modified until its final submission in May. President Downing, that concludes Superintendent's report.
Okay. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay, let's move on to board committee reports. We have a finance committee report. Mr.
Yes, we do.
Okay.
All right, as Dr. Brower said, it's budget season, so the Finance Committee has been meeting regularly with the administration, and the end of the beginning of that process, if you will, is the preliminary budget we're going to vote on tonight. That is not the final budget. Just as a refresher for those in the audience on the budget process, so that you know what the timelines are and when the meetings are. And what the process is. It's kind of changed this year from in the past. The state has revised the timetable, thankfully. In the bad old days, I'll call them, we would get our state aid numbers and all the requirements on adequate levels, et cetera, around the end of February. Would have to turn around a preliminary budget in about a week if we were lucky. I think one year it was 4 days, and a final budget usually about 2 weeks later. So this year the calendar has been stretched out, and that's a good thing. The process starts around December or January with the administration rolling up inputs from the principals and from the department heads and looking at how this year's budget is executing. We meet as a finance committee with the administration, and they go over where they're at. We provide input on behalf of the board, and that leads to a draft budget, which is a starting point of a budget that doesn't, before we get any information from the state on what state aid is going to be, or any of the other adequacy numbers or other pieces that the state doesn't release until the end of February. So we got to that point. The state released its numbers. We met again the first week of March. And where we were at the draft budget was, for planning purposes, the cap. I think there's no interest on this panel, and I'm speaking as one member, my opinion, but I don't think I'm going out on a limb that we're not interested in going over the cap or having using a cap waiver or any of that kind of stuff. So that was the direction we headed down as a starting point. After our last budget committee meeting, we were down to about a 1.5% increase on the general operating budget. At some point, you need to draw a line in the sand and say, okay, we're going to stop so that Mr. Savage and Dr. Brower can do their part in sending a preliminary budget to the state. The other thing that timeout gives us is it gives us a pile of documents that the other board members can go through, because the Finance Committee is only 3 members that meets with the administration. Now we've had other board members have had the opportunity to either go in and meet with the superintendent and the business administrator, or talk to them, or talk to the board president, or talk to me. This preliminary budget is a starting point tonight to send it off to the state so they can do their magic of reviewing it. But the process will continue. I expect we're going to trim that number. The details are always the fun part at the end, not only what the last number is, but what's in and what's out. As part of that process, at the April Board of Education meeting, there will be a presentation on the budget. And then our budget hearing is May 7th at 7 p.m. It's May 7th in this lecture hall. Is that 6? It'll be May 7th at 6 p.m. in this lecture hall. So that's where we're at. So tonight's number is not, for those of you who aren't familiar with the budget process, this is not the final budget. It's only a starting point. So, all right, moving on. The other issue for the Finance Committee is our solar renewable energy project, actually our energy efficiency project from 2008. Every once in a while, as you know, we update you on the great things that are happening with that, and it's been a good story. And I just want to update you again on that because it is in the news, and well, it's actually not in the news, but I expect it'll be put in the news by people who like to find things not to like about it. So I'm going to take the opportunity to kind of go over where we're at on that project. About 2 weeks ago, the Office of the Comptroller of New Jersey issued an alert to school districts on the way that architectural fees are applied on a construction program. Now, the alert is not a report about the Lacey Township School District. As a matter of fact, it doesn't even mention the Lacey Township School District. But it does reference a solar project in New Jersey 6 years ago in how, in Ocean County, New Jersey, and how the architect fees were calculated. Now, if you recall, when we did the energy efficiency project, that included the solar panels. We put that proposal together in 2008. There was a big push for solar in the state of New Jersey. They were rolling out the SREC program. There was a lot of homeowner interest, et cetera. We put together a proposal that showed a positive return on investment, which we more than met. And we put that out to the referendum for the voters, and they passed it. We sent it to the state for their review. But between the time we put the proposal together in 2008 and the spring of 2009, when the bids came in for the job, fortunately for us, the bids came in a lot lower than we had projected. That's a good news story in my mind. There are some people who don't like that good news story, and we'll probably be hearing from them. But the fact is that we proposed a project that would have a positive return on investment for this district at the higher price, and it came in at the lower price. So the difference in the money that was available was used, as we've said several times, to pay debt service on our other projects. This lecture hall you're sitting in is part of a construction project, a referendum passed by the voters in 2005, right? No, I'm sorry, 2000. The job was finished in 2005? Anyway, the expansion project that put on this wing of the high school, including this lecture hall, and expanded all of our elementary schools. The debt service, we took some of that money from the solar bonding because it was available, and we used it for what we were, the only thing we were legally allowed to use it for, to pay debt service. We did the same thing with some of that money to pay down the debt service on the middle school. That beautiful middle school across the fields there's still bond debt service on that. So that was a good news story as well, because the state of New Jersey is paying for 40% of that debt service. So the Lacey Township taxpayers kind of won, kind of got a double dip, if you will. And then, so that was the project. About 32 months ago, the state of New Jersey asked us for documents on the project, and they found nothing amiss with with what we did with the bonding and the use of the bond money. They did look into the architectural fees, and in this report, they have a way of determining what they believe the architectural fees should have been. The focus of this alert, it says, don't base your architectural fees on your project price. Now, there's an assumption they make that we don't agree with, that the architectural fees were solely based on the price. We paid architectural fees that were 7.5% of the construction costs. But the construction costs came in low. We entered a recession. People stopped putting solar panels on buildings. People stopped financing solar jobs. Contractors out there were dying for work, and they were bidding low just to get jobs, to keep cash flow moving, to keep people employed, to stay in business. We benefited from that. And then the difference, as I said, was used for to pay off other debt service. So really the only thing that was left for the state to look at was the architectural fees. Our contention is the architectural fees were not solely based on the value of the project. Architectural fees for that kind of work are 8 to 10% on new construction traditionally, and 10 to 12% on rehabilitation. We actually have a deal that comes out to 7.5%, which was a pretty good price. The other half of what the project was based on, though, is not just the value of the construction project, but what the architect did. They came out, they inspected 6 buildings. They did all the layout work and design work for the solar panels. They did all the electrical work for all the conduits and all the wires, all the work to tie in the solar project to our current panels and grid and power systems in the schools. They also, as you recall, we replaced the heating system in the Forked River School, so they had to survey the 2 old 1950s and 1970s vintage systems, do all the engineering work for that. We put a new roof on Lenoka Harbor School. We put new windows and doors on Lenoka Harbor and the Forked River School. All that engineering work, all that bid package work, and then helping us with reviewing the bids to ensure they complied. That was the level of effort that the architect did for the fee that he was paid. Now, there were some other good news stories that come out of this as a side effect. As part of that inspection process, the architect also found that we had a roof at the middle school which was having problems. He was able to identify that, document it, and with his work, go back and get the roof contractor to replace that roof for free. Now, that was a $1 million new roof on a school that we got for free as part of that project. The architect also worked with us to help us apply and did all the documentation for a $945,000 BPU grant to get some of the costs back for that project, which we got thanks to their help. So in the end, this project was not only as successful as we said it would be, it was even more successful. It has made the Lacey Township School District millions and saved the Lacey Township taxpayers millions. Among the savings are, to date, and this is 4 years later, 4.5 years later, $2,382,000 in energy savings, $3,582,953 in solar renewable energy credit revenue, the $245,000 from the BPU rebate, a free $1 million roof on the middle school, and not to mention all the other improvements that were part of this anyway, the new heating system at Forked River, the new roof on the Lenoka Harbor School, the windows, the doors, et cetera. And going forward, this project is going to continue to make us money because every year we're selling SRECs. Okay, we're not going to sell them for as much money this year as we did a couple of years ago when SRECs were high. And every year we're saving $500,000 a year in energy costs. So I just wanted to point that out because the solar project seems to be a recurring topic. But I like it because every time we talk about it, we get a chance to talk about what a good deal it's been for the taxpayers of Lacey. And the facts I just rattled off, we're going to put together, put on our website a description of this issue and dollar savings and the facts, et cetera. So, sorry for being so long-winded tonight, 2 hot topics, but I hope that covered it adequately. Thank you, Mr. Downing.
Thank you, Mr. Martinek, and thanks for explaining everything. And one more thing before I open up to the public. I just want to tell you that let me just read this statement because it's easier than just to talk, but the school budget is a top priority for our schools and our community. And to respond to the interests of our community members and all stakeholders in this process, we will begin hosting a 3-part series on school budgets and their development. This is a great opportunity for our community to learn about the budget. In the next few weeks, we will be soliciting topics of interest in an interest survey, which will be found on our website. Topics such as how our school budget is developed, the funding formula, state-mandated programs, discretionary versus non-discretionary programs, the budget process, solar energy, efficiencies and other revenue streams, healthcare costs and other employee benefits can be offered depending on the interest from you, the community. As part of the information we will gather, we'll ask you for the most convenient time of the year and the days that you would like to hold these sessions. We hope that you'll join us in this board's new exciting initiative, and if you would go online and give us some ideas, we would like to get this started. So thank you, and now I'd like to open it up to residents. We have no other board committee reports, right? Okay, so let's open up to the residents of the community. Please state your name and address when you come up to the podium.
Edward M. Lawler, 2130 Hollywood Drive. I'm Rebecca Lawler's dad. She just got the Unsung Hero Award. And as her dad, I've got to speak to that. There's absolutely nothing unsung about my daughter, Rebecca. January 23rd, 1996, I held her in my hands and cried like a baby. Touched her hands and her toes. And as her dad, I speak to how she's labeled. I appreciate the recognition, but her kindergarten teacher told me in kindergarten she had to stop testing her because she was testing second grade and above. So it started way back in the beginning. But I want to say she's beautiful and brilliant, she's powerful and elegant, and she's my daughter. And you know, the strange thing here, there's a couple people in here I'd like to recognize as far as the teaching capacity here at Lacey. I'm the grandson of a school teacher who taught for 41 years. She taught me how to read. So I see Eleanor Voigt. She didn't know I was going to speak about her, but I see her every day. She's well-dressed and well-spoken. She greets me with a respectful hello every day. And in one way, she reminds me of my grandmother who taught for 41 years. Not that she's old, but I really, really appreciate the value I feel after you say hello, the time you take to be the professional that you are. And God bless you. Maurice Brillon, Teacher of the Year. Fluent in 4 languages and can dabble with a 5th. I have a high respect and regard for his capacity and abilities. He's going to be a dad again soon for the 3rd time. You know, they figured out what causes that, by the way. But I just wanted to digress a little bit. With my grandmother, going into the 3rd grade, I didn't know how to read. My parents had divorced, and to say I was a tad bit uncooperative would be maybe an understatement. And she'd come pick me up and take me to her house, and with Curious George books, chocolate chip cookies and milk, she just patiently worked me through and out of what was going on. So I have a tenacious appetite for reading. But I wanted to point out again about Rebecca, I appreciate, we got PhDs and masters and bachelors and associate's degrees, but I'm her dad. And this is a position given to me by God himself. And I speak that I'm married 25 years to the most incredible woman I've ever met, Kimberly. She's here. And so the board and the teachers and the public know we've kind of tasted all 3 worlds of education. My wife homeschooled for 3 years when they were younger, 2 years of private school back when I could afford it, and we've done public school. And there's pros and cons to all 3. And this block scheduling, I think, will have success for one reason. You know, the model for 45-minute classes based on a bell ringing, confined spaces, limited choices, removing children at 5 years old to start them in a mandatory state-sponsored curriculum isn't the best way to educate, but it's pretty much the only game in town. So block scheduling puts them around teachers like this for longer, Eleanor Voigt and Mr. Grillon. I think that's a good thing. But if the board would ever like to talk to my wife and I and maybe borrow a little bit of insight, maybe we've learned something over the years, we can share the comparisons, and you know, we're available for that. And finally, Mrs. Brower, if I may address, I am deeply moved that you're here. It's like you've been raised from the dead. And I couldn't put to rest what went on with you. And just know the Lawler family was praying for God's will. And Mr. Stein, I would ask for your legal expertise on one thing. The reference to no bill, what would that be on an indictment?
Means the grand jury finds no basis to return a true bill, which means an indictment.
Understood. And the word exonerated?
Exonerated is not really, it's not a word that's used in that context, but it's somewhat implicit in the process.
Sorry for putting you on the spot, but
That's okay.
I just want to say your struggle inspires me and my family. And as a man of faith, it goes even deeper. When I breathe my last, there's going to be an indictment from those that know what I've done wrong. And as a born-again Christian, on my indictment, Christ put paid in full. It's the last sentence he said on the cross, it is finished. Properly translated, the word tetelestai means both it is finished and paid in full. So again, to Rebecca, not unsung in the Lawler household, but thank you for the recognition, and we're in appreciation for the talent that's in the school system. So that's all. Thank you.
Mr. Lawler, thank you for your comments. They were wonderful.
Good evening. Jamie Bazanti, 541 Windward Avenue, Beechwood. So my name is Jamie, and I'm a doctor of physical therapy at Southern Ocean Medical Center and a proud past student of Mrs. Downing. I hope that you will join Southern Ocean I know, right?
Oh my God, you just threw me off.
I'm so sorry.
I'm not going to ask you how old you are. Just keep going.
It's okay.
16, what?
16, yeah, go ahead, I'm sorry.
I hope that you that Lacey Township School District will join Southern Ocean Medical Center by participating in Meridian Health's Paint the Town Pink campaign and help Lacey Township turn pink and encourage women to get their annual mammography. This idea first began in 2007 in Red Bank as a special event to encourage women to get their mammograms. It started as a week, but now it's a whole month. Red Bank changed their name to Pink Bank and painted the town pink through the participation of schools and businesses. This year, we ask you, as well as the community, to join SOMC celebrating Pinked River from May 1st to June 1st. Our hope is to get the word out, if you are age 40 and older, to get your annual mammogram. We invite everyone to share in the message that early detection is the best defense against breast cancer, and that monies raised will be used for women in our community who are underinsured or uninsured to be able to get their mammogram for free. Although our main goal is to encourage women to have their annual mammogram checkup, if any money is donated to the cause, it will be used to help serve those women in our community. It is important that your children be a motivating factor, as we know the power of our young people's voices in asking the women in their lives, have you had your mammogram? Because I want you here and healthy. I have some flyers on how to pink your school, and there's more information on the Paint the Town Pink campaign. Your amazing mayor and town council, as you saw in the Lacey patch, they gave us a beautiful pink proclamation, which was the only town, I think, to ever even think of that. And they all wore pink so that it will be Pinked River from May 1st to June River. I know, we couldn't think of, I really like that one. So, so if you guys have any questions, feel free to contact us, and I do have some flyers. And I know I'm from Beechwood, but I was so excited to participate with Lacey. My mom had taught in the high school since it opened. She came from Central, it was like her second year teaching, I think. And, you know, I have such a connection here. It was so nice. My dad and I were like, oh, it's so nice to come back. So just really excited for this community.
And I've been sitting here staring at you thinking, how do I know you?
Yeah.
What a nice surprise.
Here you have me and my sister.
Thank you,
So
Jamie.
I'm going to give you our flyers. And I also have the Pink Your Ride flyers as well, which is an event that will be at the mall. So I'll just give them to you.
Okay, we'll pass it.
That sounds great. It's so nice to see you. I'm so excited.
So Dr. Brower will be getting in touch with you on this, okay? I think it's a wonderful idea. And men, I'd like to see you in your pink jackets in May for the next May meeting. Okay, or pink shirts would be good, right? Okay. Great job. Mr. Moss?
Bill Moss, Biscayne Drive, Florida River Beach. I just want to mention on the tentative budget that you're going to be giving to the Executive County Superintendent of Schools, and I asked the board, it's 1.5%, so the people understand is roughly $667,000 increase over last year. That please try to reduce that more than what it is at this figure, maybe down to 1% at most, because you did hit us last year with the biggest increase ever, which was over $4 million. But your roughly 667 is the same as it was the year before that. So we're really not, unless it's all due to pay raises, I ask you to please check again wherever you can for more, anywhere you can cut something out of the budget that's really not necessary, except for what we went through tonight with these block schools. That sounds like a very good idea.
And I can assure you, we're working on that. We left our last Finance Committee meeting with a list of go-dos for the administration to go back and, justify this cost or look at a chance to save here. And I know some of the other board members that have come in have had their own list. So we're still going through that process.
That's good, because like I said, on May 7th, I'm going to ask you again how much you did cut from that. Thank you very much. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moss. Ms. Senza?
Regina DeSenza, Sunset Drive, Sunrise Beach. The moment I've been waiting for 5 years is the block scheduling. I'm so happy that it can soon become a reality. Ever since I found out how MATES was working and the programming and the 3 classes per semester, I could see how, each of my children are working differently, one in the 7-class program and the other one in the 3-class program. It is very different, and there was more time to focus on the important subjects, less time traveling in the hallways. In the end, everyone's going to benefit, and the other schools that are doing it seem to be benefiting from it. And when you know a school like MATES, right down the street, is doing this, and they're one of America's best high schools, for the last 5 years, all I've been thinking is, why can't Lacey do this? Why can't Lacey do this? And now we finally are, and I'm glad it's going to become a reality soon. I'm really anxious to see my second son have the same opportunities Lewis did. Lewis is now a sophomore at Stockton, but he will be a senior in September from his 26 Jump Start credits that he got at MATES. So he's going to go from sophomore to senior this year. And it's a really big savings for the parents as well. And since he's there on a scholarship, it's an even bigger savings for us. So I'm very excited about the block scheduling. Another thing that I'd like to remind everyone about is the upcoming PTSA Craft Fair to be held on April 26th at the high school from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. Tables are $35. Registration forms, I believe, available in this high school, and the information is on the lthsptsa.org website. Something else I'd like to mention, more parents could attend the PTSA meetings. Just a few months ago, the PTSA sent via U.S. mail invitations to the 340 freshman parents to a welcome meeting. I was the only parent that showed up, and I was shocked. The PTSA meets every second Tuesday of the month at 7 p.m. in the high school. It's only $7 to join. Only a fraction of the high school parents are members of the PTSA. If you want to be an informed and involved parent, please join the Lacey High School PTSA. In fact, join the parent organization in any school your child attends. Even if you attend just a few times a year, you are welcome. And it will be a learning experience for you and your child, because you always find out something at these meetings that you might ordinarily not know just from a piece of paper coming home. It's a very, very worth your while to come to any parent-teacher organization meeting. The next Board of Education meeting and the calendar changes due to snow days. Will the next meeting be Monday, April 21st?
No,
22nd.
Tuesday.
It is being carried to Tuesday still. Now, is school in session on the 21st?
If the board adopts this calendar tonight.
Okay, so as of tonight, the 21st will be school, but the meeting's going to be held over to the 22nd. Okay, I wanted to be clear on that because the Monday was originally part of spring break. We talked about this a little before, but what's going to happen if there's another snow day on Wednesday? Another new calendar? Or I have to ask whether reports
Had to do it, didn't you?
All right. We'll cross that bridge next month, I guess. A while back, I had asked this question, and I'm not sure if I got an answer. How many Lacey students are homeschooled approximately? Is there a way to get this number? Because the enrollment has declined substantially over the past few years. Is there a way to get that number, approximately?
We can certainly release the number of the students that we have who have been identified as being homeschooled. However, we don't always get those accurate numbers because parents, although they are very much encouraged by state law to register with their home district, will find in practice that that doesn't happen.
Well, I was just wondering, is it like hundreds? Is it 50? You know, I was just wondering in round numbers how many kids are being homeschooled. Just curious.
The last time that I was aware, it was in single digits.
Single digits. Okay. That's interesting. Mr. Savage, a few weeks ago, we talked in your office about the banking of the SRECs. Since the original solar renewable energy credit contract expired last year in May of 2013, we had discussed how the district is now accumulating them for sale at a later date because of the prices dropping. So the funds that would ordinarily be available to help balance the budget this year are not necessarily available to do so for this year's budget. Is that correct? And how often can you check on the prices? And are there set times of the year that you can sell SRECs, or can you do it any time? Like if the price went up tomorrow, would you be able to sell the banked SRECs tomorrow?
Yes.
You could sell them at any time, so it's not like a particular season or time of the year, or you don't have to have blocks of 100?
No.
So then the income could come at any time?
Correct.
Well, that's good news. Well, in round numbers, how many SRECs are saved right now, or?
Off the top of my head, I don't know.
Okay, but.
A couple $100,000.
Oh, okay. That's what I was wondering. It's getting up there, but I just wanted to make sure they could be sold at any time, because
Yes.
if there's a market change, you want to be able to jump on it.
Correct.
Now, would you ever go into contract again for all future ones? Like, say the price goes up, could you contract at that time for that price to go into the future, or it doesn't work that way?
We did the first time. We went for three years. And
Oh,
2
it was continuous for the 3 years? It didn't fluctuate? Okay, I wasn't sure. All right, well, that's very interesting, because I would like to see the revenue from the project, but if we have to wait, we have to wait. Thank you.
Good evening, Tim O'Connor, Sinclair Avenue, Lenoka Harbor. I kind of wanted to come here tonight to discuss where we're at with the district. The report card on the state level has listed Lacey Township High School with a D rating. I see this very favorable with the block grant, or the block scheduling, whatever they call it, as a potential solution. You know, in other words, we have to do something. And that's one of the, I would like to encourage the board to adopt this as soon as possible. You know, it just seems like I can remember getting into a class and then just watching the clock for 40 minutes till it was over. The longer classes, that takes that out of it also. But the reason why, I want to kind of touch on this subject is a person told me, I graduated from Lacey Township High School in 2006. And if my assumption is that we're giving our children a poor education, how come he was successful? And my response to him was, where would you be if the school had a AAA rating? How much further along would you be? You know, what would the additional potentials have been generated from? We have to start to really address a progressive or some type of change to the way that we're doing business, because this is really, when you go back to 2009 and it was, well, we had a C rating, but you had to average 3 years so that it was still a C rating, because 2 years of a C rating and 1 year of a D rating still made it a C rating. There was all type of rationale going on back then. We have been progressively going downhill. We have 10% less students. Our budget keeps going up. I saw someone make a term of a return on the money. I have no children in the school anymore. Maybe I'm more interested in the financial side of this than the student. But I'm running into an awful lot of, I'm going to put them in a category of a 20, 18, 20, 22-year-old that went to school. They graduated. They were told, you go to school, you go to college, you get a job. They're seeing kids that are now 25-year-olds or young adults, 25-year-olds, that have amassed a huge amount of debt, and they're saying, I'm not going to college because there's no return on the money. Back in 2010, I asked this board to try to address things more like liberal arts, trades, plumbing, heating, electrical, more, not all students of today are going to go to college. And their students are now making that decision. It's a lofty goal for 100% of the students to go to college, 100% of the students to graduate, to get a good job, and life goes on. Unfortunately, our social economic times, that's not happening. I was kind of amazed at the numbers. The people in the vocational school was a very small percentage. The different things like cooking, woodworking, I know we have woodworking, but it's just so many things that were part of the academic curriculum back when I was in school. We've gotten away from it, and I think this board needs to start to figure out how we can address those things. But the number of young adults that I am coming across is alarming. They're taking on dead-end jobs that have no future. Half of them are telling me they have no driver's license because they're getting DUIs and things like that. I talked to a couple of the town council members, and Mr. Dykoff informed me that the state has funding for some type of rehabilitation to try to, if the courts can pick up on these kids, ship them to the school, maybe the school can find some way to correlate with the funding from the state, from the employment, to the career paths and things like that. The school needs to look into that. That's something that is just, we've got to do something about this law. I call them the lost generation. It's becoming alarming, the number of young adults that I'm coming across. We went through a long, arduous transition, the whole search when Dr. Brower, the selection process and everything else. I want to congratulate you on enduring and surviving. It shows that you are a true fighter. When I first heard the whole thing, I just said, here's New Jersey politics in action again. And it seems to be that's what panned out of this whole thing. Well, that has hurt our school. I'm going to go over the top, embellish, or whatever you want to call it, and I see our school board, our district employees about ready to implode. I see hostility from the teachers. I'm hearing about all these different things, that the direction that the school board is going in, what's going to happen in 2 years, 3 years, one person, another. We need to just stop. We need to pull ourselves up by the bootstraps. We need to get along. We need to just bury this, whatever it is. When Dr. Brower came in, she took 1 year to do an audit of where we were in this school. And so many times you hear school administrators or superintendents and things like that come in, and right away they're making changes. And they have no real true understanding of the impact of those changes. Anything that we do, I'm a planner professionally, I deal with things 100 years down the road, 10 years down the road. when things that I'm proposing is something that is not going to have an immediate change, an immediate impact. But we have to start looking at the bigger picture here. We need to get morale of the teachers in sync. I'd like this board to support a very aggressive teacher evaluation. It's in the contract. We're supposed to do it every year for every teacher. Kind of maybe expand the evaluation process to say who's having a problem with the political aspects of it. This is supposed to be for the children. I'm hearing rumors, comments from social media and things like that of a great divide. That can't be good for the children, for the students. Wherever we need to get by all this, we need to focus our attention on the true matter here, and that is the children. And, it's just, like I said, there's 10% less students in the school than there was just a few years ago. Lacey Township is facing the same economic woes as every place else. We're losing a lot of people because they all travel the Parkway. They worked up north. They can't afford to work up north. They're pulling out of our school districts, going to another residence that's closer to the work. So we have an opportunity to refocus our assets, our funding, our budget, and things like that, because there are fewer students. It's just the times of today. I think I can get a general consensus. The 2- and 3-year-olds, they do things on a computer that just amaze you. I've got a grandson that just, that's 4 years old. You talk about dinosaurs, he comes back and tells you their diets, the different types, the things that are available to them. We need to adapt and include that type of technology more and more. Just the abilities for them to do the research. I'd like to see more, like if a student misses a class or is going to be out for a while, is there some way that, through online courses or something like that, to get an overview, maybe not an actual class session, but, this stuff has to be somewhat canned from year to year. Become innovative, become thinking outside of the box, to approach this with a much, a different approach. We have to reinvent the wheel here. Things that have worked for the last 100 years, it's ancient history. Anything more than 5 years is ancient history. But, I just wanted to touch on that. It's just so important because we are losing so much of this talent that's coming out of the school district, whether through the state funding, maybe grant money or something like that, to get people in line to find a job, the research, put their resumes out, the selection process of what they're going to do, maybe an outreach program to the different types of unions and things like that, because a lot of the unions have lost their people because they've been out of work for 5 years. They're starting to take on apprentices. They're opening up their ranks, obviously because an apprentice is a lot cheaper than a journeyman, and they're willing to take on these new people that are getting their books and things like that. How does a person go from graduating from high school to becoming in the trades? I learned on the apprenticeship method. I started 11 years old as a surveyor. I was a crew chief at 15. That is tradition. That's the way we did things for centuries. And, it's proven technology. And I think the schools have kind of gotten away from that a little bit. And I'm just asking the school board again, 4 years later, to go back and to look at this again. Because I think that we're doing a great in-service to our children. And yes, I came here to talk tonight on another subject about the solar project. I'm going to have to absorb what Mr. Martinique said. It covered a lot of perspectives that I've never continued in the past. I went through the whole process of the SRECs and all this other stuff, and myself personally, I was not impressed. We took out a $19 million bond for an $11 million project. We put the $8 million in the bank. We're paying 4% interest on it, collecting 1% interest on the money in the bank. That just does not add up to good math. If we did take on all these additional projects and things like that, that's not what the bond was all about. You know, I mean,
Yeah, that was
that's what I'm
part
saying.
of
I'm not going to
Okay,
challenge you.
yeah.
I've got to absorb what you said
All right,
because
yeah.
there's a lot of twists that I had not factored in
There'll be
before.
a much better version of what I said here on our website available tomorrow that has.
Right,
you know,
and I'm anxious.
trying to
That's what I'm saying. I
do
want
it
to back
the
off,
top
but I
of my
want to
head,
say,
but-
yes, I was one of those people
Okay.
coming tonight to talk about the solar projects because, you know, it's just, you know, but coming back to the real issue here, there's two things that I want to drive home. One is our D rating. I went through the stats that's on our website, and I'm seeing a 2% drop in the above or advanced proficiency levels and things like that. That's bad that we're going down. And myself, as a novice, I'm attributing that to kids they know they're not going to college, and they're not dropping out, but not as engaged. And we really need to go after that type of student. I'm very encouraged with the presentation I saw tonight. You know, I mean, that just looks like a win-win and something that I think we need to take a very strong look at, and something that I think would bring about a lot of the changes that we've talked about. But again, I just wanted to, well, I'll end with, want to welcome Dr. Brower back. I kind of have a comment that if everybody is singing a person's praise, or if there's two people, everybody's singing a person's praise, and everybody is complaining about a person as an administrator, my personal opinion is I'd rather have the person everybody's complaining about. And Dr. Brower has brought a lot of change to this school district. I'm seeing a lot of the impact of her year review. I'm seeing a lot of positive things come out of it. The grumbling is just music to my ears. I'm sorry, you know. I don't have students in the school, but that shows that we're at least attempting to make some changes and to address. I hope we support her, that she continues on down that path. Some teachers are not going to like it. That being said, we all need to get on board, because if the political battle goes down as to, no, we don't want change, yes, we do want change, the only person suffering is the student. And that's our sole purpose for being here. And I just wanted to, you know, make that and drive that point very hard. Thank you very much. Good night.
I might just add, thank you for your comments, and I wholeheartedly agree with you that every decision that we make is for the students. And you will never hear an argument there from me. I will disagree with regard to the label of the D rating. I'm saddened that the newspaper came out and rated Lacey with that letter. However, I would suggest several things. That we do our own self-evaluation, we identify our areas of growth, as we did in the last Student Achievement Report. And I agree with you that we can do better. We can always do better. And that is one of the enduring messages of this administration. Your point about the high school reform, you're recognizing this is going to be a whole school reform effort. And the whole school reform effort is going to change the teaching practice. Teachers, and Mr. Groen said it tonight, Mr. Groen, you said, I cannot teach the same way in the same amount of period, you know, a 45-minute or so versus an 85. Teaching practices will change, strategies will need to be honed, and that will improve the experience for the students. With regard to the teacher evaluation comment, we are absolutely in a period of time where teacher accountability has changed tremendously from the time when I know I entered as a classroom teacher, and we're in those times right now. High levels of accountability for teachers, tenure has changed, and the evaluation process is continuing to become more rigorous and more accountable. And my last comment is just that we're excited about the opportunities to offer students. We believe in choice, and we want to be able to meet them. Whatever path they start to think about, we want to provide those experiences. So I just wanted to make those few comments in response to yours.
Okay, moving on to any other public comments? Seeing none, we'll move on to board comments. Can I start with Mrs. McAvoy down there? Way
Sure.
down there?
Congratulations to all the students of the month and to Rebecca, Patrick, and Mackenzie. Thank you for coming. With the preliminary budget, yes, tonight I will vote yes to send it on to the state. However, I would like to see it reduced, cut considerably. That was my campaign promise in the beginning, to be financially responsible for the community. So I would like to see it trimmed, and I know the board's going to work very hard to get it down, because I think everybody's in agreement that we do want to trim it as much as possible. Red Night Out, thank you to Heather Scanlon. It was wonderful. I think we had about 750 people come this year, and it was tremendous, and everybody raising awareness to the drug problem and working together. Thank you for that. Mr. Giordano and I had the pleasure of going to a 2.5-day intensive Board of Education training last weekend at no cost to the taxpayers. I'm happy to report that it was funded by the Education Testing Services. So it was a free 2.5-day weekend. We learned a lot, and hopefully we'll become effective board members. That's it. Thank you, President Downing.
You're welcome. Thank you. Mr. Shoemaker?
Thanks, President
Can I ask
Downing.
you to speak twice?
Several comments. First, I want to thank Mr. Martinak for explaining the solar energy initiative once again. And my following comments in no way have anything to do with what you said, because I agree with everything you said, and I appreciate it. I just have a couple things to add. I just can't help myself when it comes to this issue. The irony is so thick with this right now. It's sort of laughable. But first and foremost, the state of New Jersey approved this project. I'll get back to that, but the state of New Jersey approved the project. Two, the state of New Jersey for several years have done a number of things that have hurt local taxpayers and local entities like school boards and municipal bodies. First, in my opinion, the failure to establish an equitable funding formula for state aid is still an issue. And I'm not saying we're getting shortchanged more than anybody else. It's just not right. There's something wrong with it, and they need to work on that. And that's one of the reasons why we're in the situation that we're in right now, and I'm going to get into the budget in a second. Number two, the state of New Jersey has no problem telling us what to do, but then not paying for it. Unfunded mandates continue to be a huge issue for all of us up here on the board. It filters down to taxpayers and to our students, most importantly. And number three, which, again, the irony here, you just can't make it up. Starting with Governor Corzine and continuing with Governor Christie, I brought this up in the past. Energy tax receipts have been diverted to the state when they used to give back to local taxpayers $330 million statewide back to local municipalities to offset local taxes. They're using that money to fund their own pet projects up at the state. Energy receipts. And yet, now they're saying that a project that they approved, they might have a problem with, what we did here in Lacey. Again, I couldn't make it up. It's like a Lifetime Network movie. I mean, you can't make it up. How is that possible? But it's true. Yes, I watch Lifetime Network sometimes. So I just wanted to share that. It's enough. I'm sorry, but it does bother me. And again, the state of New Jersey approved our project. Let's remember. Okay, on to block scheduling. Mr. Grillian, Principal Hanshu, thank you. Not just for the information, the way you shared the information I thought was outstanding. You two are very intelligent people, not just because you work here, but you are. Yes, I labeled you as intelligent, Principal Hanshu.
Thank you.
You could have spoken in a way, I'm sure in a little bit different way to explain it. It was very clear, I think, to the public, and it was just understandable, so thank you. One of the things that in my opinion, on occasion, block scheduling has sort of a stigma that school districts who only care about the high achievers in their district go to block scheduling. And that's a fear that some people have, and it is not the case at all. and that was the part of your presentation that I really enjoyed. It's about life skills and preparing our students for the future, no matter what they do after graduation. And Mr. Grill, you really spent time on that. And the analogy of how you spend your day as a teacher is different than a lot of people in many ways, but especially in the structure. So, which leads me into the budget discussion. I think a lot of people believe, and some people may not, block scheduling and the quantitative data and the qualitative data, as you heard from the BRIC parents, is there to say this works and it can improve our district. None of us up here on the board, and we're going to be put in a situation very soon, in the next month, in the next 2 months, when it comes to budget time. And it's going to be, it shouldn't be about this board member wants block scheduling and this one doesn't because they either voted yes or no on the budget. We're going to be dealing with line item by line item up here in a school board, and that's our job, okay? It's what we do. We have to do it. It's important. Every single penny. And we will do it. But it doesn't have to be that way. And what I mean by that is you'll hear out in the public, and it's true, the school district is the biggest part of your tax bill. Absolutely true. And guess what? Every single municipality and school district in the state of New Jersey, it's the same way. We can work towards fixing that, but there's a bigger picture. Several people brought up enrollment's down. Why? It's not just, Mrs. DeSenta, but you brought it up, so I'm addressing you. I hope you don't mind. It's not just the homeschool children. The children are leaving with their parents to go somewhere else. I don't know the number of homeschool children, and that's up to the parent and the family. That's fine. No issues. It's about the value of our town. The monetary value of our town, like a lot of towns in New Jersey, is lower now than it was in the past. Okay? That means, why? We had a superstorm Sandy come in. I'm talking about the storm of October 2012 that came in to our town, to our region, that people are still recuperating from. That hurt property values. Tax appeals went way up. That cost the town money. The value of the homes in the housing market is down. So the value of our town in dollars and cents is lower. So what does that mean for all of us? Regardless of what all of us up here decide on what's going to go in, what does not go in that budget, the tax rate changes. Less ratables means the people that are left, the businesses that are left, have a heavier burden than they did before. It's a distribution of the money, of the pot of money that's out there that we call Lacey Township. And it's changed. And it's not about assessing blame, it just is. So we have to rethink, in my opinion, how we address budgets. And this district, Lacey, has a history. Go back. We've done a great job of passing budgets when they had to be passed, which I'd be happy to go back to, which I've said before, and keeping our tax rate as low as possible. We've given money back. We had 5 cents back, 10 cents back in a couple years ago. But now, with the value of our town where it is, not just Lacey, like other towns, I think we have to go to a priority-based budgeting strategy. And we're doing that to a large extent, and the next couple of weeks are going to be important. But I think too many times, people responsible for budgets say, okay, this is what our budget was last year. So let's keep that part of it pretty much the same. Now, how much more are we going to include in next year's budget? Is it going to be a penny on the tax rate? Is it going to be 2? Is it going to be 3? We try to come up with a way, what is the public going to accept? What are we comfortable with as a board? And I say we don't have to do that either. What if maybe the block scheduling, which I think a lot of people up here think is a great idea, and I'm going to go out right now and say I think it's a great idea. What if that's something that should definitely be in, but maybe something that's been in there for 5 years no longer needs to be in there? We have to prioritize our goals and strategies here on the board and across the town. And I think just in talking, we're not calling it that, but I think as a board we're starting to move in that direction. So some of you who asked about reinventing the wheel, the wheel might not be spinning as fast as some of you want, but I think we've begun to do that. There's nothing else we can do. It's a state of affairs. We got to rethink how we handle money. So back to the basics of town planning. It's not all on the school district. So I ask, we should all be asking, what are we doing about economic growth in the community? We need to have a mix of good, thoughtful planning, open space preservation. Sure, it's important in our town. What about retail and commercial development? What kind of initiatives are we doing as a township to attract people to Lacey Township, which I believe strongly is still a great town? That's where the money's going to come in to help us deal with the issues, that one line item that we have to struggle over for an hour in a meeting behind closed doors. Again, we have to do it. But there's other ways to address it. All right, I'm going to move on. The winter sports banquet, I had the pleasure of attending the other day. I thought it was well attended. And I kind of needed it. Just a lot of things going on in my life, and you know, being a board member when the tax base is at where it's at is not as easy as some might think. It was kind of uplifting because it reminded me that we got great kids in our district, and we got great coaches. I mean, the coaches really care about the kids in our district. And yes, the head coaches get a stipend, well-deserved for the amount of time they put in. We also have a lot of volunteer coaches who do not get a stipend. Retired teachers who come back and say, I like coaching this sport, I'm going to help. I'm just going to help. So it was great to see, good turnout. Could always be better, and I think it's something that we're looking at as a board collectively, how positive it is, but I think it is positive. And then last, and forgive me, but I have a thing about the playgrounds and facilities in our district. I know it's been a really cold winter, horrible winter. That's evident. But now that the weather's starting to turn, hopefully, I did notice, and I know our facilities and maintenance will get out to it, but the playgrounds and the safety surfacing and some of the matting, I was out at some of the fields, over a harsh winter and use, kind of just gets moved around, and our kids are about to get out there. So I know, I'm not putting this on anybody individually, but something I just noticed. I hope we get out there and make sure that the playground surfacing is back to where it needs to be. That won't take long. Just a little bit of scheduling on that. I apologize for the long-winded comments. There's a couple of things that I felt pretty passionate about, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Schubiger. Mr. Giordano?
Thank you, President Downing. I'd like to start off by thanking Mr. Martinek for his insight into the solar project. I know that's been a hot topic amongst the community. I'd also like to give congratulations out to our students, Megan, Mark, Rebecca. It's always, great to see you guys up here representing your fellow student body and being role models for the community, so thank you. Just to recognize Mr. Lawler's comments, those were wonderful comments, and it's always great to hear that from parents as well. Teachers of the Year, there was a lot of names out there, so I can't remember all of them, but one does come to mind. Jen Bentley comes from actually grew up down the street from Jen, and comes from a long line of educators within the family. Her sister's a teacher in the district, and her mother's a retired teacher in the district, so congratulations to Jen. Mr. O'Connor, thank you for your comments tonight. What I was going to say at the end of my comments, I'm going to say now. I wish that more people in this community would come out to these board meetings. President Downing talked about the committee that we're looking to form up to discuss the budget. I think more people need to be involved. More people need to show interest. It's only going to make this a better school district, so come out and be a part of that. Tonight, I will vote yes on the preliminary budget. In doing so, this board, Mr. Savage, Dr. Brower, there's still work to do. And it's really to meet one goal in mind, and that's providing the best opportunity for academic achievement for our children at the lowest cost to the taxpayer. That was a cornerstone of my campaign, Mrs. McAvoy's campaign, and we are focused on doing that. We just attended the school board workshop that's mandatory, and it was a wonderful experience to learn and to see what we need to do to be more effective board members, and I'm excited to do that for this community. It's our job as board to ensure the financial integrity of this budget, and all while doing what's most important, what's important for the children of this district. Tonight, you learned about block scheduling. A wonderful presentation and some valuable insight that I think everybody can recognize. I think it's real important that we take a hard look at that. Mr. Shoemaker made some comments about going through the budget line item by line item and looking at things. We're going to take a hard look at this and see what we can do where block scheduling is concerned. You know, there's a few points to understand and to be clear about. You know, when you talk about a budget, there's a starting point. We have bond debt. We have lower ratables. You went into a lot of that. These are all things that we need to look at. But know that we're working hard behind the scenes to make the smartest decision, what's best for our students and what's best for the taxpayers of the community. Those are my comments. Thank you. I thought the long pause at the end would let you know, but I wasn't.
Do what Mr. Christie
You were thinking.
I'll get a signal there at the end.
Okay, Mr. Carney, you want to go next?
Certainly,
Is that
President
a
Downing.
choice? You don't have a choice. You're
Yeah,
going next.
thanks. Okay, so not to get real redundant here, I want to congratulate our students. Why I wasn't here to actually see their bios, I read it, and I'm always amazed at the activities and their involvement in the community, and they keep up such great GPAs. So congratulations to you all. And to Mr. Hanshu and Mr. Grillen, nice job. You guys put a lot of time and effort into that, and it showed, so outstanding. And I'll end with that one, Mrs. Downing.
Thank
We
you,
can move
Mr.
on.
Carney. Mr. Martinek.
Thank you, Mrs. Downing. I, too, would like to congratulate Rebecca, Megan, and Mark. And I'd also like to thank Mr. Hanshu and Mr. Grillen for their presentation tonight. It's obvious they're passionate about this subject and passionate about what they do, educating our children. And even though I've saw it twice before in Curriculum and Finance Committee for Mr. Hanshu, there was just something tonight that was even more dynamic and more informative. I don't know what it is. Maybe it was all the German references or something. But thank you. Obviously, you spent a lot of time, and the rest of the high school staff working on this to try to make it a success. So we appreciate you taking the time tonight to explain it, not just to us, but to the rest of the community. And with that, I think I took up enough time during board committee reports, so I will end my comments there. Thank you, Mrs. Downing.
Okay, thank you. Vice President Trella?
Thank you, President Downing. With each board member who spoke, my idea of my comments have changed. But what I have to say, I have to thank the board members for their very insightful comments. But let me first start with the kids. And that is Rebecca, Mark, and Megan, always impressive. And I do really appreciate also the presentation we get to see. And again, we have students behind those cameras who are helping Mr. Hanshu put on those presentations, and that just, yet again, another way to showcase the talent of our students. So I thank you. And I bet they also may have had a hand in helping you do the presentation for the block scheduling. Mr. Hanshu, did any of the students from our technology or Channel 21 help you with that?
Yeah, yes.
Yes, so yet again, and I don't think people realize, every board meeting, you see all these wonderful graphics, and you get to see all the wonderful presentations. There's students behind that. It's not just staff, but Mr. Hanshu and Mr. Grilon, that was an amazing presentation. And as Mr. Martinak said, I've heard this 3 times now, and I learned something new. So with each time, I think you guys bring more information and more energy to the presentation, and it was extremely helpful. So thank you. Red Night Out, the only thing I wanted to add to that, it was an amazing turnout. And I think all the guest speakers that are not from our community, if you were there, they kept mentioning they've never seen crowds like this come out. So they understand that Lacey, educational community, and the community at large is serious about tackling drug and substance abuse issues and looking for any way to help families suffering with these issues. And what I really loved is I recognized a lot of middle school students and high school students that attended. And so they got to hear the message firsthand, which was just amazing. The Teachers of the Year. Mr. Savage, are we honoring the Teachers of the Year at the May?
We're doing it at the May meeting, yes.
At the May. Thank you, President Downing. So that is a wonderful board meeting. We'll have it in the auditorium.
Yes.
And so anybody who wants to come see their teachers being honored, please come join that. There were a lot of familiar names. I have 2 children been in the district, and so it's really wonderful to see all these people being honored. In regard to the budget, I will be voting yes to send the budget on to the county. As you've heard from board members, we are constantly working on it. It is a work in progress. It's not a stagnant document. One of the things that I think has come across, but I just want to make sure, is that our township revenue is down. So what is coming to the schools, and Mr. Savage, please correct me if I'm somehow misstating this. I want to make sure I'm accurate in this. I'm not an accountant, and I'm not a business scholar as yourself, but the town revenue is down about 1/2 cent. Is that correct?
1 cent.
1 cent. So a total penny, the revenue that's coming from town.
On the school tax rate, it's 1 cent.
Yeah, the school tax revenue. So in other words, what the town would be forwarding for the school budget, it is down 1 cent. So that's 1 cent that we had to make up from the get-go. As you all realize, in all our home budgets, none of my utility bills have gone down. Unfortunately, I do not have solar panels. My gasoline costs have not gone down. There's not a single cost in my household that has gone down, unfortunately. So I am proud of what Dr. Brower and Mr. Savage have put together as a preliminary budget. I think we're well on our way of putting together something that will ensure that the quality of this our school and our education for our students improves, at the same time not being overly burdensome to our township residents. And as I have said not a million, but several times when we have these discussions, the 2 reasons I came to Lacey is because of the school district, from the K-12 school district, with an educational community who really cared about the kids, and the park system, and that it was a safe town. So those are the things we have to continue to fight for in this town, and that's the only way our town will survive, is by making sure that we can provide that so people will want to bring their children into this town and build a family in this town, like I did. So thank you, President Downing.
You're welcome. Thank you. And I'll make my comments very brief. I too would like to congratulate our students of the month and our unsung hero, Rebecca, Megan, and Mark. Also would like to acknowledge and congratulate the students of the month at the middle school. Savannah Styler in grade 7, Zane Merzak in grade 7, and our 8th grade student of the month, Zoe Penna and Matt Walsh. Congratulations to you. They are in our booklet here of acknowledgments, but we want to make sure they're acknowledged. Yes, we are going to have the May Teachers of the Year here in May to acknowledge those wonderful teachers. I'd also like to thank you for a great presentation. And yes, I sat through curriculum and finance as well, but tonight there was more passion. I don't know, it was like you were in a contest or something. It was really good, really good. You did a great job, both of you. The Winter Sports Award celebration, I attended the other night, and it was wonderful. My favorite award, they recognize the letter winners, the Golden Paw, the MVP, but the award that I am so passionate about is the academic award. That goes to the student with the highest grade point average on the team. And here they are practicing late hours at night, going to games, and yet still keep their grades up. So that award, to me, is like the most important award. And I want to congratulate all the award winners. And also, thank you to the boosters and the PTSA for the snacks out in the hallway that they provided for all the guests. So thank you very much. Seussical, the musical, that is a great play, so I hope everyone gets to come and see it. I know I've seen it in other schools, and it's one of my favorite. Red Night Out was unbelievable. Unfortunately, I could not attend last year, but I did attend this year, and it was so touching. And the candlelight ceremony in particular, where they put the candles on the empty chair, the tears were coming down. So, I mean, it was really, really touching, and amazing how many people came out. And Mrs. Torello was right. They kept commenting on what a community this was, to have so many people show up on a night like that. So Congratulations to everyone involved in putting that together. And at that, I'm going to say, let's move on to new business. Ready? Okay, items A through K, page 37, 38, and 39. Could I have a motion? And the top of 40.
Second?
Roll call?
Mr. Giordano.
Yes.
Mrs. McAvoy.
Yes.
Mr. Martinak.
Yes.
Mr. Schubager.
I'm going to vote no on item H, the tentative budget, and yes on the remainder.
Mr. Carney.
Yes.
Mrs. Terrell.
Yes.
Mrs. Downing.
Yes. Donations, I'll need a motion, but first, if I could please read all these. We want to acknowledge and thank a book donation, Sneetches by Dr. Seuss, from the NJEA to Lenoka Harbor School, value $14.99. A carton containing boxes of chalk from Staples to Cedar Creek School at a value of $70. A variety of games and toys from the Fucello family, Cedar Creek School, $100. A snare drum donated by Mr. and Mrs. Peter Caraselli to the high school, worth $100. A check donation to purchase an EvacuTrack chair from the Knights of Columbus, hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, at the high school for $500. And also a check donation to purchase an AED, an automatic external defibrillator, from Richard Housworth and Sons, valued at $1,495 donated to the high school. We'd like to thank all of our donators for all these things. Can I have a motion, please?
Move.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Giordano.
Yes.
Mrs. McAvoy.
Yes, and thank you for all the donations.
Mr. Martinak.
Yes.
Mr. Schubager.
Yes.
Mr. Carney.
Yes.
Mrs. Terrell.
Yes.
Mrs. Downing.
Yes. Top of page 41, programs and curriculum. Could I have a motion for A?
Move.
Second?
Roll call?
Mr. Giordano.
Yes.
Mrs. McAvoy.
Yes.
Mr. Martinak.
Yes.
Mr. Schubager.
Yes.
Mr. Carney.
Yes.
Mrs. Terrell.
Yes.
Mrs. Downing.
Yes. Item 4, professional days. Could I have a motion, please?
Move.
Second?
Roll call?
Mr. Giordano.
Yes.
Mrs. McAvoy.
Yes.
Mr. Martinak.
Yes.
Mr. Schubager.
Yes.
Mr. Carney.
Yes.
Mrs. Terrell.
Yes.
Mrs. Downing.
Yes. Item 5 on page 42, could I have a motion for A?
Move.
Second.
Roll call?
Mr. Giordano.
Yes.
Mrs. McAvoy.
Yes.
Mr. Martinak.
Yes.
Mr. Schubager.
Yes.
Mr. Carney.
Yes.
Mrs. Terrell.
Yes.
Mrs. Downing.
Yes. Item 6, certificated personnel, items A through I.
Move.
Second.
Roll call,
Mr.
please.
Giordano.
Yes.
Mrs. McAvoy.
Yes.
Mr. Martinak.
Yes.
Mr. Schubager.
Yes.
Mr. Carney.
Yes.
Mrs. Terrell.
Yes.
Mrs. Downing.
Yes. Item 7, support non-certificated staff personnel. There is a correction on your blue paper for item D, number 3, effective date 2/24/14.
Got it.
Okay, so could I have a motion with the correction?
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Giordano.
Yes.
Mrs. McAvoy.
Yes.
Mr. Martinak.
Yes.
Mr. Schubager.
Yes.
Mr. Carney.
Yes.
Mrs. Terrell.
Yes.
Mrs. Downing.
Yes. Are there any other items on the agenda? Could I have a motion to adjourn the meeting and to move into private session because no action will be taken?
Yep. Move.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone.